And hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Henry. Strap yourselves in for an exciting story time today on the channel. As you know, if you've been following my channel, I am finishing off my commercial pilot's license, and part of that process is achieving your night rating, so being able to fly at nighttime. And I had my first in-flight emergency happen to me while doing my solo night cross country and southwestern Ontario. So today we're going to be talking about what happened, what the emergency procedures went, and what to do if this happens to you. So strap yourselves in, let's get ready to fly as we recreate things in X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Sim. So for the night cross country, we're doing Collingwood to Goderich, Ontario. So it's a nice decent flight, you know. You can have an hour of flight time, you can do your stop and go in Goderich and just fly back. So pretty much start off with a normal flight, you know. So going west, so we're doing 4,500, go around 120 knots for the cruise speed. And you know what? It's a very nice, calm night. So I reached my initial point. We go on our wonderful cross-country flight here on track. We do our radio calls on 126.7, which is kind of like the Canadian cross-country frequency. And all is going well. It's a beautiful night, no turb. Everything is awesome. Very, very high ceilings at 25,000 feet. And it isn't until I get around 10 minutes into flight where I notice I get an alert on my left MFD here, and it says alternator. And of course the alternator, if you don't know what it is, it's the thing that charges the battery, so make sure the battery doesn't die. So just like a car, it charges your battery, so your battery is charged and doesn't run out of electricity. So when an alternator fails, your battery is not going to be charging, and that means you can run out of power. Your engine won't die because, of course, magnetos, they generate their own electricity. So unlike a car, when the battery dies, your plane's going to keep going, but you won't have any radio, and you won't have any lights or anything. So obviously an alternator failure during a night cross country is something really, really serious, because during the day you can see where you are and navigate, but during the night it's more looking at city lights and seeing where you are and being able to maintain a heading. So it's a little bit scarier. So the first time I noticed this indication, I didn't really notice a voltage drop on my other. See, this is the issue with the Sims, is that you can't go to the actual engine page in a G1000, but pretend it's the full page, engine page. It looks like a false indication. So I switch it on and off. Alternator's fine. And then another minute passes, and then the alternator fails again, and I have a voltage drop, so the battery's no longer charging. It's not a false indication. I'm like, oh, this sucks, but you know what? This is real, not in a sim. I'm on a cross country, so I'm going to have to turn back. So I decided to cycle the alternator one more time. I turned it off and on again, pretty much. You pull the circuit breaker just to see if that clears the fault. And it doesn't clear the fault, so I'm like, okay, let's turn it around. So follow the checklists. So the thing is that when the alternator fails, you want to make sure that your system has less power usage. So that's like turning off lights and everything else. On the DA40, there's something called the essential bus. So basically it turns off everything that isn't important. So like your lights, the second MFD. So MFD is multi-function display, so the right G1000. And all the other little bits and sensors that you don't really need to survive, quote unquote, during a night flight. So before turning essential bus, I actually decided to descend down to 3,500 because, of course, our cruising altitude. So we're going east now, so descending. But the reason why I kept my other systems on is because we actually had another student that was following me a few kilometers behind, and I wanted to make sure all my lights and everything remain on, because I want to make sure they see me in the descent. I may contact them over the radio, make sure they know where I am, because last thing you need is me turning around and us giving each other a high five, if you know what I mean. So as soon as they passed over me, that's when you flick on the essential bus. Unfortunately, it's not showable in X-Plane, but if we switch over and over to flight sim, you can see what happens. And when you switch on the essential bus on the 40, like I said before, the right MFD goes offline. You can't see it in the sim, but pretty much everything becomes solo on the left, so the pilot MFD. So your engine gauges, your maps, your attitude, everything is on the one panel. So it's not exactly like this in the sim. But the important also thing for night is that your external lights besides your landing light are all offline as well. So that includes your nav light, your strobes, everything else. So it's very important to be able to communicate with aircraft on frequency and keep a listening watch for other aircraft and aircraft that might not be on frequency, right? I did have other options that I could take if I had to, but of course joining the circuit at Collingwood, part of your radio call when you're 5 nautical miles out, you also just let the traffic know that, yeah, due to like your alternator failure, you don't have lights on right now, and being doing your traffic lookout, right? Because once you're in the circuit, you don't have your lights on. You have to make sure other people know that you're actually there, right? So once you get your landing light on, you're in the circuit, and then you just do your landing as normal, taxi up, etc. And post-flight, what we found out the next day is that the wire of the alternator became loose during the flight. So luckily I didn't break the plane. It was just one of those things that can happen, right? Like it can happen to anyone. And at the end of the day, I'm grateful for the experience, right? Because this I feel like this can be an interview question when joining an airline, is if you ever had an in-flight emergency. And now I can say that I have had a real life in-flight emergency, and that I followed the checklists and everything else. So again, the cool thing about the story is just showing, yeah, be prepared, know your checklists, and it's just stay calm and follow the procedures, because they exist for a reason. I'm happy that I made it back safely, and yeah, just know that it can happen to anyone. I just found it funny that out of all times it had to happen on my night cross country. So that's it for today. Just a quick story time. Let us know in below if you ever had an IRL emergency like this before, or something similar. It's always interesting to see the hangar talk, hangar flying, and getting other pilot experiences below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks again all for attending this wonderful little story time. As always, my name is Henry. Fly safe and happy landings.